Welcome to You Matter in Business. Your hosts today are Ariel, me, and Miriam.
Your heart, your brand story, and your success because you matter in your business. Hi, and welcome back to You Matter in Business. And today I'm here with my co-host. So that's Ariel. Good morning, Ariel.
Hey there.
How are you doing?
Good.
Awesome. And we're also joined today with a very special guest, and I'm excited about this one. This one is Manny DelaVega. Hi, Manny.
Hello, ladies. How are you?
Really good, thank you. So we're delighted to invite you to the You Matter in Business podcast. So Manny is a business coach, and Ariel and I are really interested to understand how you support businesses in their development journey. And I think you use a system and soul business growth framework. So I wonder if you could possibly start by introducing yourself and sharing a little with us about your background and what originally inspired you to become a business coach.
Awesome. Yeah. So Manny DelaVega, am an engineer by trade. Went to engineering school, and that's how I started my career working alongside a lot of engineers. I was working for some General Electric was one of the big companies, Faro Technologies. And when 911 happened back in 2001, I saw how a lot of engineers got laid off after being in these great companies for like 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that got me thinking, nothing is really secure. You want to do the corporate ladder, which I was really enjoying. You never know what's going to happen. So at the time, my sister wanted to open a business. She's a chef and she wanted to open a restaurant. And so I kind of left my corporate job and I said, I'm going to help out my sister. And at that point, I had been involved in management and I loved it. So I love managing teams and I love that side of it.
Just real quick, if you're
Yeah.
anywhere near DeLand, Florida, they have a restaurant called DelaVega, and best hibiscus tacos I've ever had in my life. Anyway, okay, go ahead. Go.
Thank you. Yeah, my sister's very talented. So yeah, we've been, we run together the business for a long time. And about 6 years ago, she's operating the business by herself. I'm still owner of that. But I was very frustrated as an entrepreneur because I went from engineering management to owning a business. And I was like, oh my gosh, I really don't know how to run a business. And back then it was a good economy, before 2008, anybody could have a business. People were going out to eat, the economy was doing great. I had a friend that had 18 restaurants and he didn't know what he was doing and he was making money up and down.
Wow.
Yeah, but 2008 came along. Now I kind of giving you my whole background here very quickly.
The cliff
2008 came along, the economy tanked in the US, and that's when you really needed to know how to run a business. And a lot of the businesses that didn't understand how to run a business went down. So I got, together with my sister, and like either we learn how to run a business or we're gonna, fail.
Yeah.
So we did. I started my journey. I did a lot of business seminars, a lot of Tony Robbins. A lot of it was mindset. Sometimes entrepreneurs go, they want to offer a product, help the community, but then themselves, they have a lot of limiting beliefs and a lot of things that they don't even know they need to work on. And then they are faced with that challenge. How do I move forward? So I did a lot of that work myself. I got into I enjoy creating processes and procedures and systems, which is not what I do, system and soul. But I did love creating cultures, managing people, which I found that a lot of entrepreneurs actually don't like that part, and they struggle with managing employees. But I really enjoy that. Created a great culture at the restaurant, and we've been at it for 20 years. And then, like I said, 6 years ago, I decided to, something I really enjoyed was coaching, and I wanted to do it and offer it and not do it only as a hobby, but open my business, the Vega Business Advisors. And yeah, I've been coaching and helping businesses since then. So
Fantastic.
that's the short version of it.
The potted version of the DelaVega story. Love it.
Yeah.
Manny, because you mentioned a couple things. You talked about limited beliefs and something else, but I was wondering, in your experience when you work with women in particular, what are some of the common problems that they have to overcome, or what are some of the do you find it different working with a female client versus a male? That kind of discussion.
Well, first of all, let me tell you that 20 years I've been running the restaurant, and most of our crews have been mostly female. Yeah, so right now we have about 20 something employees and only one male. Our
Wow.
whole kitchen is run by women. Our whole front of the house is run by women. And now I have
Powerhouse.
in my business, in the coaching business, I'm the only male. I have a marketing person and now a new coach, a female. So I'm very comfortable working with females for the reason that they are very intelligent and they're usually they're very passionate and they don't get distracted. Sometimes we get distracted by other things, other hobbies, video games, things like that, and we lose focus easily. But
It's
women,
multitask that does that, though.
exactly.
Yeah.
What's the common thread when you work with women? What do you think the the biggest obstacle or struggle that we face?
Yeah, I mean, men have these too, but I find that women kind of don't believe in themselves enough sometimes. They are super intelligent, super smart, super, they have a lot to offer, and they don't get told that, whether it's in their childhood or in their professional life. So they're having a hard time believing it. So a lot of my job has been being a champion of women and say, yes, you can do that. Yes, you can do that. I've been in a lot of situations that, do you want me to do that? Do you really think I can do it? Yes, of course you can do it, and then they prove themselves that they're able to do it and they thrive, So not only giving them the chance because they open their own opportunities because they're smart, but once the opportunity opened is like, can I actually do this?
Yeah, and as a
Yes,
coach,
we do know.
as a coach, I spend most, all of my time with my clients, believing in them before they believe in themselves. And it's that holding that belief that they can do it before they actually realize that they've got that strength too. And that's really important as a coach to kind of like hold that for them before they even realize it. So that's great. Cool.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that to get to believe something, you have to hear it repeatedly with a lot of repetition, It's not like you understand it once and then, okay, now I believe it. It doesn't happen that way. So you have to kind of constantly telling them, believe in them, motivate them, and eventually that belief system gets ingrained in your core, So, but yeah.
Okay, your turn, Miriam.
So
We're taking turns today.
So I wondered, Manny, whether you could actually share with us maybe a success story of a client that you've worked with who has used your systems and processes, and that's enabled them to transform their business. And I wonder if you can identify, was there a key turning point in that journey?
Yes. This is very interesting because, yes, part of the reason why I love what I do is because there's a lot of breakthroughs and a lot of transformation. Just like in my own experience, it was all about that. And I'll get to experience that with clients, A lot of people think that running a business is common sense. Most people think I can do it myself and I can figure it out myself. And truth of the matter is, running a business is not common sense. There are things that you need to learn, you need to do. And so three of the great examples, this is actually how I base my practice, because these four things are the four things that create the most breakthrough and transformation. So the first one is alignment, team alignment. A lot of times, for example, if it's a family business, like my sister and I, for example, we run the business. A lot of times we were not on the same page. She wanted to go one direction, I wanted to go another direction, or I wanted to go faster, she wanted to go slower, or sometimes we're not communicating ourselves. And the same happens.
That's secret, isn't it? It's the communication between you, I think.
Yeah, a lot of people don't put effort into creating channels of communication strategy. A lot of people think that that's just natural and you're just gonna do it and it's gonna happen. And guess what? It doesn't.
No.
If you're not intentional about communicating properly, it doesn't happen, and it creates a lot of problems, right? So part of bringing these teams into alignment is creating great communication structures, uh, pointing out great communication channels, and giving them communication tools. So I seen how, I had a client where she was very much used to, running the show, and whatever she was just giving orders, and, I want to do this and I want to do that. And she's visionary. So she's got a lot of ideas and she wants to create a lot of things, super intelligent, great entrepreneur. But a lot of times women like that are very visionaries and go-getters. They think everybody else thinks like them. And so if they wake up one day with one big idea, bigger than the one they had yesterday, they just tell everybody, let's go that way and let's go hard and fast. And everybody else, and if you're only employees, everybody's going to be in shock, but nobody's going to tell you they're in shock. They're going to say,
they're overwhelmed by it. Yeah.
Yeah, they're overwhelmed, and they're going to say, yes, let's go, because they're employees, and usually they don't want to challenge the owner or anything. But deep down, they know they can go, or they're going to try and fail because they haven't, the foundational work hasn't been set, setting strategy, channels of communication again, setting goals, setting milestones, and giving people a chance to, for the learning curve to happen. They may not have the right skills to get there. So that's one of the big examples that I have. So she understood that not everybody runs at the same pace, that she actually needs to slow down, put it on paper, create a strategy, and wait for everybody communicated to be on board. Now the ship moves fast, right? Because before she was frustrated. Why I'm telling you to do that and nobody does it? Why I'm saying this and never happens? That's exactly why. Because you want to run before you crawl, and you need to have foundational work. And then when she started adjusting to that, because it was an adjusting to say, I don't want to do it 1,000 miles per hour, I'm going to slow down. Then what is the saying that says, if you want to go fast, go slow, or something like that? If you want to fail, I don't even know what the saying is, but it says, basically says, you need to slow down to go faster. Right.
Yeah, and that's something I share with my clients all the time, is that requirement to just stand back and give yourself time and breathe. But I think we all get, well, women, men, getting carried away with our enthusiasm and think that everyone else is on, that perhaps in the same headspace as us. And it's that ability to stand back, take a breath, and then communicate everything really clearly with them, and just bring that team alongside with you. In order to be able to make a business really thrive, you're not going to thrive unless you take everybody with you. And that's a real skill, isn't it? That skill to be actually to get everybody on that same page.
Yes.
So yeah, that's great.
A lot of things start with awareness, because you got to be aware that not everybody's like you.
Yeah.
Because we run our lives with a filter of how we see things, and we don't.
I figured that out years ago.
Yeah, my wife still. I've been married for 20 years. She still thinks I can read her mind, and and I try, but impossible.
No, you can't.
For a man to read. So she tells me things, and she assumes I already know the whole background of the story, and I know I need to slow down.
You need to realize that men are from Mars and women are from Venus. We're very different.
Exactly.
We work very differently.
Yeah. But same with employees, there are employees that are motivated by different things. There are employees that are go-getters. There are employees that are average, and that thrive in calm environments, and the ones that thrive in challenging environments. So one thing that I do with my clients is I help them run what is called the Working Genius, which is a personality profile. And it's a perfect profile to understand how people work around you, because there's a lot of personality profiles, like the Dick's profile and all that. Sometimes they go too deep into the person, and you get to know a lot about the person, but then what do you do with that information? It's not like you're going to marry them, right? Or anything. You just need to work with them a couple hours a day, and they need to understand how they work. So I find that Working Genius is deep enough in how they work, but it doesn't go deep enough into the personality. But that gives you...
That kind of tells you how, if you've got an introvert on your team, how they work differently, how their mind works differently, or if you've got an
probably
extrovert.
what motivates them.
Exactly. And then it helps you have some realistic expectations of it, because if that person is not a visionary, is not going to thrive on big ideas, don't put him in a position where he needs to create big ideas. Or if it's not a person that is going to thrive in sales and marketing environments, don't put him in that. And a lot of times what we do as entrepreneurs, putting the right person in the wrong seat. And then we wonder how they fail, right? Like
so it's playing to everybody's strengths. So everybody has strengths. So it's making sure that they fit into your organization where they're going to thrive, which ultimately means that your business is going to thrive. If you can line up all your ducks in the right order and put them in the right places, so you've got the strongest people doing the things that they're really good at, your business can't fail to survive and thrive, can it?
Yes, and reality is that an interview, even if it's an hour or 2 hour interview, is not enough to tell you how these people work. You know, you need deeper work. You need, assessments that experts already developed, they tried, and they design to have these results in a matter of minutes without you having to kind of figure out the whole process, right?
Yeah, absolutely. On your website, it talked a lot about systems and processes. So I could see that you work with culture, a company culture. But what are some of the other systems and processes, I can't even say it, processes that you find most people don't have implemented that they need?
This is a big one because I found that no entrepreneur opens or starts a business to create processes and procedures. Nobody says, I'm going to open a business so I can create enough processes and procedures. Everybody is like, I want to create a great product, a great service, right? So most entrepreneurs, they neglect that until they absolutely have to do it, which is when they have big problems, or they do very little of that, So obviously, the ones that I see that make the biggest impact are the ones that are related to your product or to your service, right? Because those are the core things that kind of drive your business. If you don't have the right product, it doesn't matter how good your marketing is. If nobody's going to buy your product, it doesn't. So, for example, in my business, we created, product. For example, my sister was coming up with specials, right? You want to come up with a restaurant with specials, and you think she just creates one day and she just develops the special. No, that sometimes happens, but most of the time it doesn't. So we created a system of 14 stages, what we needed to follow to be able to create a winning special. And we did that, and we're starting applying, we identify what did it, the people that needed to be involved, not only the chef, I got involved, the staff got involved, we did pilots, the whole process. And that's how our menu 20 years later, it's a winning menu. We do have most of the items sell really well, and most of the items are really good because we follow that 14-stage process to get them into the menu eventually.
So it's almost like you help people develop an SOP for different pieces of their business. Am I hearing you correctly?
Yeah, I don't like the word SOP because SOP sometimes sounds like something you do and nobody cares about and nobody looks at again. So it is an SOP, but this is what I like to do is creating these systems that people use every day. It's not like a binder somewhere and nobody cares about. So steps of service, steps of cleaning, and then we attach that to training, because a lot of times you create the procedure, but you don't train people on how to use the procedure. And most importantly, you don't hold them accountable every day to actually follow the procedure.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so everything, it has to be ingrained in one area where training, procedure, accountability, and flexibility, because you're still dealing with people. A lot of the mistakes entrepreneurs do, especially if they're crazy about procedures like me, which were very rare. Most of the entrepreneurs don't. But rare people like me, then I wanted to create procedures for everything. And that's a mistake too, because you got to let room. You got people are people, they're humans. They make mistakes. They can think for themselves too. So you don't have to do 100% of everything you do in a procedure. But have you ever heard of the 80-20 rule? 20% of it's going to create 80% of your results. So that's what I help with my clients. Just identify that 20% that is crucial, work on that, put a procedure, train them, give them accountability and flexibility, and 80% of your results are going to show.
Yeah,
and
that's
entrepreneurs
that 10x.
do the opposite. Right, exactly. Entrepreneurs do the opposite. They worry about the 80% that doesn't produce any results, And that's how they're overwhelmed and, they're not getting anywhere.
Frustrated and 100%.
Okay,
Did I
so
answer your question?
Yeah, I think
I hope I did.
so. I'm a strong believer in the fact that the soul of every business is the values that it holds, and that these values are what sets each business apart from its competitors. Can you explain why you think the business owners struggle to put those values at the front and center of their business growth and strategy?
Yeah, they struggle because creating values is something that nobody teaches you how to do, right?
Yeah.
When you're born in a family, your family has a set of values, which are usually your parents' values. Well, guess what? Nobody taught them how to set their values because they were kids too, and they got those passed along. So they're doing the same to you, and now they're ingraining their values into you there, as a child. But it's a natural process that happens in the families. But you know how to behave. You know your family likes to go to church. You know your family, celebrates Christmas. You know your family is dysfunctional. You know that's another set of values, right? Everybody has a values, whether they're good or bad. You have values that your family follows. So you open a business, and now you need to set values. How do I do that? Nobody gives you a manual. Nobody gives you the process. Nobody gives you the procedure. But it's important because imagine you start a family and you have 3 kids, and just let them do whatever they want. Don't tell them that they need to go to church. Don't tell them that they cannot do, they can distinguish from bad or wrong. I mean, let your kids run without values and see how they turn out. And that's how business owners do. They run businesses without values. No wonder how they turn out really bad. And, they have a lot of high turnover. They have a lot of stealing. They have a lot of toxic environments. They have a lot of, loss of income. They have all these because there's no values ingrained.
So we need to treat our businesses a lot more like our families, and stop expecting people that come into our business to work in our businesses to share those core values from the start, because they come from different. So it's that communication of those values. I mean, in my experience, having those key values for your business clear will affect every aspect of your business. So you'll be able to, everything will be affected about, hiring your great employees that share those values, making decisions, teamwork, collaboration, communication. It all comes from making sure that everybody is on the same page and shares those same core values. And it gives that purpose, I think, to every employee that you have, and actually every activity that you do as a business, if you are clear on those core values. And I think it's important to establish. I mean, when you come to do that process with your clients.
When I did this work, I went online, because a lot of us are, we need the sources in our minds. So, and I put out one of many, there's a lot of them out there, resources, but I put out a list of different core values, because sometimes we think of those main topics, but it's the nuances that are in some of the other names. So just being able to look at a list and then say, that's what it is. It's not quite this, it's this. So, I mean, there's a lot of resources out there, but I find that helps when you give people at least more than, it's like feelings. How do you feel? There's 4 main feelings, but there's a whole lot of feelings that fit underneath that, right? So it's the same thing. There's core values that are kind of the bigger ones, and then there's those nuanced ones that really give you a flavor, kind of like adding a little spice to your food.
Yeah. It also depends on the industry. I'll give you an example. Integrity. I work with other coaches that work with other industries, and I work with many industries: construction, assisted living, of course, manufacturing. But in the industry that I grew up being an entrepreneur, which is the restaurant catering industry, integrity is big because there is a lot of lack of integrity in that industry. There's a lot of cash always, all the time. And there's a lot of ways to steal, right? And all that. And other coaches from other industry tell me, you don't need to put integrity, because that's kind of like a given. Everybody wants to have integrity. And in other industries, that is true. But in my industry, it's not true. It's the opposite. You really need to put it as a core value, because the people need to know that you're not going to accept lack of integrity in your business. And that's what we have done, you know. So if we didn't have that a core value and just assume everybody has integrity, we would be in trouble, because a lot of people I have fired is being because of lack of integrity, because it's in my core value, you know. So it really depends on a lot of things, but you really, bottom line, you really got to do the work to find those out. And then once you have them, then you need a process to implement that and make that your culture. And of course, having accountability of people that actually do it. And when you say, yeah, kind of treat it like family, yes and no, because I don't like when people say, oh, we're family in, you know, my business. You're really not, because in your family, you can never get kicked out, you know. Whether you like your family or not, you cannot stop being the daughter or the mother or the right. You're part of the family, whether you like it or not. In a business, you can't get kicked out. You can't get fired. If you don't follow those core values, you need to go to find a different family, because you're not part of this family. If you're really having that accountability and you're really having to create that positive culture, you have to give people the opportunity that if they don't fit in your family, they need to find another family to belong. And that way you're doing yourself a favor, or you're doing them a favor as well, because if you keep them too long, it's detrimental for your business, and it's detrimental for themselves, because they could thrive in other environments, but they're not, because they don't fit in your culture.
Yeah. And toxic relationships don't work in any situation, do they? Whether it be a personal relationship or whether it be in a business relationship, if you're not all pulling in the same direction, if you've got that kind of conflict, then it's not going to work, and you need to declutter those relationships in every walk of life. Okay,
So
cool.
We talked about this a little bit earlier. You touched on it, but I want to kind of dive a little deeper into this subject. But you talked about, you know, one of the things you found women had a lack of self-value, or didn't believe in themselves, which to me is similar, not quite the same, but similar. So one of the things we find, both Miriam and I, is that a lot of women don't see their value as a woman, as a business owner, as everything they've accomplished in their life. They don't see their own personal value. So how do you work with helping people? And we use the word authentic, but when you have value, you are authentic. It's just a natural byproduct, because you're not trying to be something else to fit into a box to make somebody else happy. You see your own worth. So you are who you are. So how do you work, or how does this help a business owner when they can distill and start to look at their own worth as a human being, not just pieces of the puzzle? Yeah. I know that was a lot of words. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, again, that is the same for females and for male. The thing is that male, usually we get into environments that we tend to be motivated by challenge. And sometimes we ourselves put ourselves in environments that challenge us. Thus, we have to resolve. Thus, we have to see if we're valuable or not. And we quickly find out if we fail, we're not. And if we survive, we are. And obviously, there are women just like that and even more powerful. But a lot of times women, they don't tend to put themselves in a lot of challenging situations. So they don't find out if they're valuable or not. And that's why you have to tell them, or you go ahead and put them in challenging situations, which they don't like we do, men. But the purpose is served still. They challenge themselves and they have to resolve and they have to thrive. And I find that most of the time they do it way better than men anyway. And then once they thrive and they say, wow, he challenged me. I didn't think I could do it. I wasn't going to do it. I was going to quit, but I did it anyway. Oh my God, I was able to do it. Now I have more value. And if you do that more and more and more, you do that. Now you got to be careful not to put them in a way too challenging environment at first, because women tend to retract and they don't adapt to challenges as, you know, like men do. But if you do it gradually and you always check with them, hey, is this something that you're willing to try? Is this something that you do that? And then also if they fail, you gotta reinforce that it's okay to fail. You gotta, you know, there's ways to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Learn from it, because a lot of times we feel really bad when we fail, and then we don't want to try anything else because we fail miserable. So failure has to be part of, yes, you're learning and it's okay. You got to do it again. And if you fail
It's a
again, it
teacher.
doesn't matter. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a teacher. Yeah. So I had to learn that because in the beginning I was so male because I'm a male, obviously. And I thought everybody was like me. So challenge them. And if they don't do it, then they're out. And if they do it, then they're in. And now I take a different approach. See who they are, see what qualities they have. If they need to be ease off into that a little bit low, we need to give them more time for the learning curve because some people learn in 3 minutes, some people take them 3 weeks, but at the end of the 3 weeks, both of them are super high performers, so you just got to be a little bit more patient sometimes and understand who you're dealing with to be able to get the most out of people.
Goes back to that understanding who is working in your organization and what their strengths are, doesn't it? But it also, I always say with my clients that challenge is what you grow on. Challenge is what makes you more resilient and more, able to overcome those barriers. Also, sometimes it's fear that stops us doing those things, and and fear, sometimes it's more frightening to think about the things that we've got to face rather than actually the reality of facing them. But it's knowing that, and and having that support structure behind you and that accountability, just to actually step out of your comfort zone and try those things, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs, they're fearful of themselves, and that's how you have to do the work within themselves so they can put themselves in front of those fears and they can see themselves that they can do that. But also, since they feel bad about going through that themselves, they don't put people around them in the same situations. So they feel like, oh no, they are not going to be able to do this, and no, they can't do that. And that's when you find entrepreneurs, oh, I do everything better than they can because they're not going to be able to do it. And that's a false, understanding because challenge them. And I've been surprised. I thought, that I could do some things better than the person that I'm training. And it turns out I end up learning a lot from the person that we trained. And actually, give him enough time, it's been a lot better than you. And that's the whole key. You got to be able to train people to be better than you in all aspects. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. So what final piece of advice would you give to our listeners who are feeling perhaps overwhelmed and trying to build their business alone? What would be your advice to them?
Well, business is not for the faint of heart.
No.
It's challenging every second and every day of your life. But, not doing anything, not going through challenges, it's actually worse, because then you end up not doing anything, not accomplishing anything. So just step into it. You don't have to figure out how to do things. You figure it out as you go. Give yourself some room to make mistakes. Some mistakes are going to be bigger than others, but, forgive yourself for doing that. But if you step into that and you go at it with 100% of your effort, you gonna end up in a better position no matter what. Even though it's not gonna seem that way sometimes, but at the end of the day, 20 years later after starting my business, I can tell you, we're better off mentally, physically, business-wise, financial-wise, relationship-wise. All that, you got to be able to grasp all that, otherwise your business goes down. So it's kind of like a way for you to be forced to be better in every aspect of your life.
I love that. That's great. Thank you. So believe in yourself and put yourself out there, challenge yourself, and ask for help. And ask for help when you need it. I love that.
Yes,
that's great.
That is the key. Yes, don't try
Another
to do it
thing
like
we're not
I
always
did.
good at.
We're not. Yeah.
No. So thank you, Manny. That was really great. And I know that I've learned an awful lot from that conversation. Thank you for taking the time for us to talk to us today. Really appreciate that. It's always good to have different perspectives from other coaches, business coaches, and other people in our community. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you, ladies.
Ariel, are you going to talk? You're welcome. Ariel, are you going to talk to us a little bit about things that you are involved with at the moment?
I am, but I want Manny to let us know before I do that where do people get a hold of you? How do they find out more about you and your business?
Sure. So my website is DelaVegaAdvisors.com, and you'll find everything about what we do and how we help people. And of course, LinkedIn, Facebook, and all those social media platforms.
All those good things. Yeah.
Yeah, those
Great.
good things that you have to do. So
Okay.
yeah.
We'll put the information in the show notes too, so that they don't have to like write it down, because I know
Awesome.
how hard that is when you're listening to a podcast. So the links will be in there. But I wanted to also take just a couple seconds. I'm not going to go over on this, but we have Miriam and I this is for the audience. We run a retreat for women, and it's for business owners, and it is for women that really want to kickstart the next year, or they want to kickstart the next, quarter or half year of their business, depending on when the retreat falls. There's links on both of our websites, but the need is, if you are interested, check out the information. If you are interested, you need to get on that call. We need to find out multiple things so that we can curate the right group of women together and the right place. We get the venue after we get the women. So if you are very much a historic and you love Victorian, and just, as I'm throwing that out there as something, and that's your vibe, that's your business vibe, is all those pieces. Well, that wouldn't work in a very modern house. Or if you're a very modern, your brand is sleek and simple, you wouldn't do well in a house that was very ornate. So we want to make sure you are put in the right place with people who share that. So get on that call, set up a time that we can talk, and we can figure out how we can help you with that. It's going to be an incredible experience. It's very exclusive. There's only a few people who can go on a retreat at a time. And then we also have one other thing. Do you want to talk to them about the workshops?
So the workshops are happening every quarter. So by the time this one goes out, then we will have already done one, which is on January the 7th. But we've got other ones coming up in April, in July, and in October. And that's run by myself, Ariel, and we've got a fantastic other collaborator called Elsie Mendez. And she's an author of a book on affirmations. And actually, she's been on this podcast before. So if you look back in the history of the podcasts, we did 2 podcasts with her earlier in the year about what she does. She also is a Legal Shield associate. So together, we're putting together a series of workshops, and they cover various different fantastic subjects, which are close to the heart of all women business owners and businesswomen. So there are links to those workshops. They're free. They're happening live streaming on Facebook and on Zoom. And there's links to both of those on, I think, all 3 of our websites and on all of 3 of our social media. So get involved with those. Again, free, fantastic resource for you.
We do need you to register so you can get the proper links. So sign up. It's free, only a little bit of time and a lot of education.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you, Manny, for listening to our spiel.
Sorry.
A shameless plug.
Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah, and if you have any women that are interested in some more different perspectives, share.
Absolutely.
Especially the workshop is free. If you have women who are looking for building their personal brand, because that's kind of what the retreats are all about. They need the images, they need the alignment.
My sister needs to work on that. She needs to kind of develop her personal brand.
Yay!
Well, let's get her going, because it really will be a game changer for a woman. Just because we're so busy in life, and we're doing so many different things at once. We're the mothers, we're the housekeepers, we do all these things. We might be the accountants, we might be doing all these things, and we're running a business on top of all that, right? So the idea of a retreat is you step out of all of those responsibilities and you relax into, with just a few women, so it's not overwhelming, you relax into, I have time to really focus on this stuff. I don't have to go make dinner in 5 minutes, right? Everything is taken care of for you. And then after a full day of a lot of mind work, it's not just branding work, it's also, so it's a bunch of different things. Then we follow that up with images that fit what you just did all at the same time. You're in the same mind space. and you get all the, foofy stuff done for you. So, and you come out with a clear vision of what you're going to do strategy wise for the next 6 months. So to a year. So it's really a Kickstarter for a lot of women. So throwing that out there. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Good to
thanks.
know.
Sorry.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much.
See you next episode. After all, it is your brand, your story, and your success. Because Ariel and I know you matter in your business.
Thank you for listening to the You Matter in Business podcast. Please follow, share, like, and comment. We would love to hear from you. This podcast is sponsored by Ariel Faith Photography and Enrich Life Coaching. The show notes provide more information on how to contact Ariel and Miriam and any guest speakers who share in our journey together.